we have Tim Golden, and he is going to be talking all about really a great conversation that flows from Wes, from Dustin to Tim. Hey, Tim, how you doing? He's going to be talking all about cyber governance. Tim, great to see you. Thank you so much for taking time.
Hey, how are you? Just give me a thumbs up. Make sure you can see me, hear me. Awesome.
Thumbs up.
Very, very excited to be here. Wow, I get to follow Wes and Dustin. Those are some pretty big shoes to fill here.
You're the cleanup hitter. What are you talking about? And as we mentioned, the magic words, templates, right? Policy docs. I mean, this is your world. Why don't you tell the folks here on the chat online, who is Tim? Tim, and what is Tim working on?
Yeah, so Jonathan, thank you so much. So Tim Golden, founder and CEO of ComplianceRisk.io. We kind of get into the space, not sort of by accident, but by recognizing that the MSP community was really starting to struggle with this complex word compliance. And we've been living and breathing that for, 17 years within our MSP. So it's kind of like second nature to us. So, we started by helping and answering questions and really building a community, building a peer group around compliance specifically for MSPs, and kind of iterated from there, right? So yes, we teach you to fish with our peer group, and we've iterated into we fish with you, compliance as a service. And as we've gone through this sort of over the last couple of 18 months or so, we recognized that nobody really does governing well, right? Everybody goes out, and we heard from Dustin and the questions earlier, like, got a template, got a checklist, got a thing. And we've been writing policy documentation and governing that for 17 plus years. And so we spun up a SaaS app to try to be able to help MSPs guide them through the process of governing stuff. Policies, procedures, risk management, hardware, software, all these cool things that, we're kind of working through. But yeah, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about us and our product, because the point here is to help educate the MSPs. Is to take the 17 years and teach the next generation of MSPs.
Oh man, I appreciate that. You're a great community contributor. You're present in a lot of these groups, and that's why we're having you on, right? You're very free with your information, your expertise. Definitely appreciate having you here. Before we get into your presentation, we have been asked by Timothy in this case. I am 0 for 1, sir, in terms of playing rock, paper, scissors with our guests. I'm hoping to improve my record. We'll see what we can do here. Do you want to go? We can go sure. 1, 2, 3, shoot.
So rock, paper, scissors, right?
Okay, yeah. Ready? Okay, sorry, I wasn't ready. Okay, that was a practice run.
I'm ready. You ready?
That was my way of cheating. I got a tip off now. Okay, here we go. Ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh, 2 papers. We gotta go again.
Okay.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh, you got
rock, like hammers, scissors, right?
That's right. You obliterated my scissors. I am 0 for 2.
All right.
Use thunder.
Best out of 3?
No. I don't want to embarrass myself further. That's fine.
Always going to use rock, right? Because, we're the rock.
Okay, well, with that out of the way, let's, not that we needed any more proof that you could outwit me. But yeah, I'd love to jump into your presentation. And I just want to let people know in the chat here, don't be shy. Definitely, we will happily interrupt Tim as he's going through this. With any questions that you have. Definitely meant to be a conversation with all of us, really. Everyone on the call here, you've got the things that you're doing, the things that you're trying. Share what your experiences are and what you're doing, and we want to hear from you too. So with that, Tim, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Jonathan. So, as I said, like coming on the heels of Wes and Dustin, right? The conversation about templates, the conversation about IR plans, like a lot of what we've seen and how we've run our MSP has been on the left side of boom for a majority of our IT career, right? Which only makes right side a little easier. So today I want to talk a little bit about how do we build a left of boom program following NIST. right? And so as Dustin said, feel free to stump me in your questions and Jonathan will fire them at me because I love being stumped along the way, right? So yeah, just getting right into it. Like, what does left of boom mean? What does it mean to us? And what does it mean to the community at large? You know, as Dustin was sharing earlier about the incident that happened, about the process that they had to go through, about turning off devices and all of that stuff. Like, as MSPs, we spend a lot of time on the defense. We spend probably a majority of our time warding off those bad actors everywhere. We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know when they're coming, but we buy all these tools and we do all this stuff and we continue to, like, well, as Jonathan said, if I'm the, you know, the cleanup hitter, try to hit that home run and play cleanup, right? And so what we have found is that the better prepared you are on the other side actually helps prep you to get on the offense, right? And it's a total mind shift for most MSPs, right? Because, you know, we want to fix things, we want to plug holes, we want to thwart off the bad actors, we want to, you know, have some cool tools that tell us the things that are happening, right? But on the left side of boom, preparation, right? The better that you're prepared, when boom happens, you now have a plan. And not only do you not have a plan, but you have buy-in from the entire organization all the way down to the end user, right? And there's some very key things that we can do along the way. Small incremental changes, right? Because gaining those small incremental changes along the way, you're going to be able to eventually gain those operation efficiencies, right? So far, so good, my friends. Left of boom, preparation in a nutshell.
Yep.
And our goal here is to help you all shift left.
Thank you very much for that, Tim. And now I'll just pause you right here for a second, because we did have some discussion in the chat there while you were talking about what are we talking about with boom? What is boom?
Yeah.
It's what you drop when you beat me in paper rock scissors. But no, it's you know, it's the impact of an incident. There's the after it is when you're getting, okay, an incident has happened, we're responding to it, and then left of it, like you were saying, is a lot of we're talking about prevention, right? We're talking about hardening, we're talking about setting up detections in place. There's a couple other things I'll drop in the chat here, but before we go on, just wanted, you and I were talking about this, and a big focus of this for your presentation. We've heard a lot of right of boom talk, because it's been a big shift where, as I think Wes pointed out, security used to be all about just AV and firewalls, right? We're blocking malware, you know, malicious things. And then there's become this acceptance of, like, okay, there's more, you know, it's a not a matter of if, but when. You have to be prepared for dealing with active incidents. And so you really need to do a lot of preparation that way. And a lot of attention is shifted that way, rightfully so. But a big focus that you and I feel like we both agree on, that we don't want to lose sight of the preparation side of it, and the prevention and hardening, you know, making yourself less of a target, reducing attack surface, being properly prepared and everything. So just wanted to provide some more context there, and share a little bit about what you and I were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point. You say hardening, right? So what does that mean in terms of the MSP, right? So I'm going to roll out GPO, I'm going to roll out Intune, I'm going to roll out stuff to make sure that the devices are as protected as they can be. But how do I do that? Like, oh, wait, developing a baseline configuration, right? One of the documents on left of boom, developing a baseline configuration that says, we're going to run Windows Millennium Edition. We're going to open up every single port on the device. We're not going to block anything. Not kidding, right? Building out that baseline configuration to not only meet the standards, but now you have something that is a repeatable process. Having that documentation in place, right? So hardening. Well, what am I hardening and how am I doing it? Well, have the documentation that says that, right? That's the left of boom. And the right of boom, or in the middle of that, is actually rolling those things out so that when boom, the event, the incident, the thing happens, now you have a plan to follow. So far, so good, my friends. Let's move on to some of these key principles of in a left of boom approach, right? And when you look at, I'm very process oriented, tab A, slot B, and I think a lot of IT folks are, like, we're very good at the regimented, do this, do this, do this, do this. And writing code my whole life, like, code happens, linear, right? So when I look at one of these principles, like identify the risks, maybe with a show of hands or a little thumbs up in the chat, how many of all of your MSPs do a risk assessment with your clients, at least, if not once a year, more frequently? Let's go ahead and see some comments, yes, no, right in the chat. That would be really great. So are you doing risk assessments? No, cringe, okay. So even if you're not doing risk assessments, I would strongly recommend, even if you don't have a tool or a QBR platform or a risk platform, let's not even talk about the tools right now. Pull up a spreadsheet, pull up a Word document, pull up something. And there's plenty of templates. We have some on our platform. You can Google most of them. Pull up a thing to help you identify those areas of risks and do it in your own MSP. We're not even going to talk about the clients yet. You should be doing this work on yourself. Identify your own areas of risk. I'll throw one out for you. Shared passwords. How many MSPs are probably not going to admit in chat, but how many MSPs are using shared passwords or shared administrative accounts? That's an area of risk. Start to do this work on your own MSP, because once you start to identify the risks, then you know where you need to be able to prevent those attacks, right? Then you know, oh, on the right of boom, on the event, we can start to figure out, this is my attack surface. But what good is learning all this information if you don't actually train your staff, right? And having a process in place. Well, yes, we awareness training a lot. Amazing set of tools to help you awareness training. But I'm going to take that a step further and actually training on the risks that come out of the risk assessment. You do the risk assessment, you understand what that attack surface is, and then having conversations with your level 1, 2, 3 technicians, with your service manager, with everybody inside of your MSP. Practice on yourself. Take a half an hour a week. You can find a half an hour a week for a team meeting. Even if you're a single MSP, you should still be able to do this work amongst yourself. And then monitor, update, maintain, wash, rinse, repeat. So sort of 4 simple basic things. Figure out what your risks are in the attack surface, get your staff on board and help them understand the why, and then wash, rinse, repeat along the way.
So Tim, I think I'll interrupt you here for just a second. Going with this process, I mean, I think you brought up something really important there with the 30 minutes a week, because this, and then also what we were just discussing with Dustin too, there's a lot of, I think that these initiatives where people are like, okay, this sounds great. You come out of an event like this, you've got this to-do list, and it can get kind of overwhelming quickly. And then the latest fire comes up and you kind of push it aside. So I'm really glad that you brought that point of it through. And I just wondered if you had any other comments, suggestions about making as you're thinking about this through this kind of first steps.
Yeah, so one of the things that we do at our MSP is I speak with our technicians individually once a week on a quick stand-up style meeting. It's 10 minutes, maybe 15. Sometimes it goes longer, but we schedule a 15-minute block at 8:30 on a Monday or Tuesday, right in the beginning of the week. It's scheduled, it's on everybody's calendar, it's repeatable every week. So it's in our minds, oh, got our meeting, got our stand up. And in those sort of stand up meetings, what's going well, what's not going well, where are you struggling, where do you need help? And forcing us, it's going to take a little time for you and your staff to get into that cadence and get into that rhythm. But once you get into that cadence and rhythm, you'll gain so much more down the road, right? Being able to check in with your staff once or twice a week on a regular cadence is key. And if you take anything out of this conversation today, walk away with, you know what, in fact, you're all sitting in front of your computers right now. I guarantee you have your Outlook up. Pick a morning, pick 15 minutes and invite your whole team. Do that right now while we're on the call. So there's your actionable item, Jonathan. Take that 15 minutes,
Beautiful.
Schedule it on your calendar right now and get your team and ask your team members 3 questions. What's going well? What's not going well? And where do you need help?
Love it.
Even if you're by yourself and you're a one-man MSP, one human, sorry. All right, so moving on into NIST. Everybody know what NIST is? Every time I don't qualify or quantify an acronym, Jonathan has to take a sip of his iced coffee, right? So NIST, the National Institution. I'm just not even going to say it, so Jonathan has to drink.
Oh, well, there we go.
National
As long as
Institute.
it's, yeah, so as long as it's not something spicy, then I'm good with it.
Well, you know, I've got the big thing of spice that'll be at the trade show next week, so you'll have to come have some. So, no, we all know who NIST is, right? That it's the organization that helps develop standards and frameworks and all kinds of stuff. If you don't know what it is, Google it. I'm not going to insult you. You'll be able to figure out. But in the NIST framework, there is risk assessments. You can go and download templates from them. If not, we have them as well. And there's a whole boatload of practices and guidelines and things for you to be able to follow a process on the left side. When we talk about CMMC, HIPAA, SOC, ISO, all these acronyms in what are called risk management frameworks, a vast majority of them have their foundations in NIST. And so, you know, do we recommend start with NIST, start with CIS, start with this, start with that? Well, you know, whatever framework you start with, the key is to start. A lot of people, a lot of MSPs like to start with CIS, the Center for Internet Security, internally with their top 18. It's a pretty easy framework in a sense where it's iterative and it grows upon each other. You start with 1.1, 1.2, then you go to 2.1, 3.1 across all the stuff. So we like to use NIST because it's pretty encompassing, and under MSP, it is the guidelines that we have to follow for maintaining FedRAMP monitoring. So we start with NIST. Yes, assessing risk and being able to prioritize those risks. So conducting your risk assessment and determining shared passwords is probably a much higher risk than, I don't know, blocking port 8080 on a firewall. I'm just kind of pulling that out of the air, right? Well, you should be blocking various ports on your firewall. Sharing credentials across your staff or even at your clients, having shared credentials with no password manager in place and no things, that can have a higher risk value data. So yeah, you can't block 8080 unless it's business critical. I'm kind of watching the chat over here, and I'm sure Jonathan's going to ping me when something comes up. But yes, looking at being able to prioritize the risk, being able to understand the data that's in the network, right? If I'm doing a risk assessment on a CMMC client and there's, you know, CUI information or even a HIPAA client and there's, you know, private information spewed all over the network, that's a problem. If I'm doing a risk assessment on I don't know, my next door neighbor's cookie business, she's probably not going to have a lot of that data like it would in a healthcare organization. So determining the level and value of that data is going to help you modify some of your risk assessments. And I'm seeing chat blowing over here, right? And so there are a lot of one human MSPs. I get that. I started out as a one human MSP and grew over the years. And I get it. It takes time. But establishing good habits in your one human MSP as you grow and add staff and build that culture out into your MSP, it's going to make you way more efficient down the road. I think one of my high school teachers always said, like, take the time to do it right because you will never find the time to do it over. Right? And it just, that sort of stuck with me forever, right? So moving right along, two guys, one whiskey bottle. Love it, Thomas. Thank you so much. Did you know that I am a certified bourbon steward and that I was heading down that path, although I no longer consume alcohol because of a couple heart issues, but I saw that pop up in chat. Two guys, one whiskey bottle. Perfect. Love it.
So what I did know that, Tim. What I did not know is that you, in fact, were even working like at the distillery, like very close to where I live, because Tim and I live in the same area of the country. Yeah.
Yeah, like right down the street from you. In fact, I worked at a couple of different distilleries here in southern New Hampshire, southern Maine for a while. It was, it was interesting. Like I was going to leave IT and build my own distillery and brewery until my ticker thought otherwise. So,
wow.
The doctor says, quit smoking, quit drinking, exercise, all that fun stuff. And I'm like, I could probably give up one thing and I'll try that. And which I did. And COVID hit and I couldn't hang out anywhere where I used to, go to a brewery or whatever. Like, okay, 1 month turns into 3 months, turns into 3 years of COVID, and like, fine, because I didn't really drink at home. So,
yeah. Oh man, well, but I think you are describing, like, we have I've seen a few comments already throughout this day, especially during Dustin's presentation of goat farming sounds nice. Whiskey distilling sounds nice. But here we are. We're all back in it. That keeps clawing us back in it together. Sorry to interrupt you there, Tim. Let's continue.
No, it's all good. It's all good. The banter is really like, sure, I'm going to run through some slides. I'm going to throw out a couple. Is what most important here in these conversations. Yeah, my big shtick, as you can see right in the middle of this in this slide, is policies and access management. And I'm just going to hinge on the policy management part, right? When we talked about earlier with Dustin's cyber liability, right? There's 5 or 6 key things that they're asking for. Like, do you have backups? Are you dealing with 2-factor authentication? How are you dealing with incident response? All of those things needs a plan, needs a document, needs a thing to be able to say, this is what we do. And most of what we see in the industry is they'll go to Google and wherever, they'll go to whatever platform, whatever thing, they'll download a document, copy pasta company name, and they're like, oh, great, we're done here. I have an incident response plan. Where we are starting to see trends is that is not good enough. These documents are living, breathing documents that need to be iterated and changed management and authorized and trained, adopted all the way through the process. It's not something where you copy paste once and you think you're done, right? And so, putting in those preventative measures that talk about how do we test this stuff? What are we testing? And the change management to make sure that those are happening. Policies and procedures are something that's very dear to us and what we built into our platform. ChatGPT is my new IR plan. Yeah, let's talk about that, Jonathan. Okay. So who put that in Slack? Daniel. Let's talk about the GPT things, right? So first and foremost, we all know that there are data privacy concerns. I'm just going to stop this share because this slide's not relevant to the GPT conversation. We all know GPT, there is privacy concerns. I don't want to get into the gory details, but my recommendation would be look at it and read it, right? If you're using an AI and you're using a chat GPT that is publicly accessible and you're putting data in there, hopefully you're not putting client data, and hopefully you're not putting personal identifying information in there. Chat GPT and any of these AI tools are really great to a point. And we're actually building out some natural language learning and LLM, so language learning mod. I can't say the word. We're actually building those things into some of our platform, but contained. And so if you're going to use any of these like AI generated things, it's really good as a baseline. And that's it. Because those AI, ML, all of those tools, they're not going to know the specifics of your business or your client's business.
I think it's probably like a lot of people say about a lot of different software and tools, right? I think there's absolutely some unique things happening here that are very exciting around this area. But when you really step back, I mean, you know, you can give you can give me like a very a nice, complicated, like craftsman's tool, and I'm not going to be able to use it. Like I can't suddenly start doing woodworking because I don't know how to use a tool, right? And so the way I see it is whether I think of it more of like in terms of marketing copy or things like that. But in terms of documentation, everyone's flocking to it to save time. But it's not really going to solve that first step that you're talking about here, Tim, with, okay, what's the actual plan? What do you need to do? I think they're great tools, but they have to be used very intentionally.
Yeah. So I love that you use the Carpenter analogy, because I have a really great one that's similar that I use, right? And so you give me the best bandsaw, circular saw, drill bit, the plans, the amazing wood. You give me the workshop of Bob Vila, and trust me, I've built houses, so I know a little thing or two about actual woodworking. And I can barely build a birdhouse. But you give the Amish carpenter a rock and come back to him in 24 hours, and he's going to build you the Taj Mahal, right? The tool is only as good as the human that's wielding that tool, right? So, templates are great. In fact, we have a bunch of them in our platform that we offer as a jumping off point for you, but it's still not going to know the nuance of the business and the nuance of the controls that you're trying to adhere to.
Now that said, a lot of the time when we're talking about documentation, setting these things up and keeping them updated now too, I mean, I think the pain point there for a lot of folks is the time, right? Like no one wants to be doing this stuff. It takes time out, like it's not billable time, like it's just
well, I would challenge the not billable time. So you're right. The way that we've seen the community work around documentation, specifically cybersecurity documentation, like show of hands in chat, how many people in your MSP, simple yes, no, have an onboarding document? Come on, I know you do. Keep going. There's a bunch, sort of, nope, maybe, yes, see, yes, great. So you have an onboarding document, great. Right. And that onboarding document talks about how you onboard people, blah, blah. So you're already in the mindset of having a plan. You're already doing that work. Now you just need to apply that same mindset to password policy, incident response policy, acceptable use policy, right? All of these different baseline documents that not only you, but your clients are going to start to be required because of cyber liability insurance, because of the FTC safeguard rules, because of some privacy law, like these documents, you're already in that mindset because you have an onboarding document. Great. Apply the same methodology to these other baseline documents. And there's at least 6 that every business should have. And what we do, is sort of secret sauce, is here's the documents. We're going to walk you through that alignment phase, making sure that those documents align to the actual business processes in place. And Jonathan, we hear a lot like, yeah, but I can't document everything. Great. Start with a simple denominator. Start with your ChatGPT template. I don't care. Start with my template. I don't care. And make a few modifications and iterate. It doesn't have to be the final document on day 1, but it should be something that says, this is my IR plan. You know, Dustin mentioned a 2-page IR plan. Great. Ours is like 7 pages. Doesn't matter how many pages it is, but you need to be able to say, an incident happens, we call Jonathan. Good enough, right? An incident happens, we call the insurance company and they tell us what to do. 3 sentences in my IR plan if I have nothing. But here's where this needs to go a little further. You need some executive, some accountability to sign off and say, yeah, that's our plan as it is today, right? It's not just some document that goes to SharePoint and die. It's a file that is living and breathing. You know, as you hire more people, as you hire a CFO, as you hire, like you, meaning your client, as their business iterates, so doesn't their documentation. Starting with that alignment, getting it written to a lowest common denominator, having the executive level, yeah, this is our document, but taking it that one step further and actually training the end users, not only on the policy, but the why, right? We as IT people, we want to lock stuff down. You know, I'm known as Big Bad Tim because I come in and lock everything down. And it was really bit of a struggle in my early CTO days. Like, well, I lock everything down, you get nothing. On the staff, you know, they're angry, they can't do their work, all that, you know, negativity. What I learned was I need to explain the why before the how. And
before you drop the boom, that's the real boom.
Right.
That's Big Bad Tim coming in.
And these documents can help you and your clients understand the why. You start with the risk assessment and build on that why. You get the buy-in from the company, like, and you then have.
All right, Tim. So we've got about 7 minutes left. I want to make sure you have more presentation. Want to make sure we get to it, and also want to make sure that we have some questions here.
I could talk this stuff all day long, Jonathan. What, you know, we originally were going to talk about hardware asset management and using Ninja One to be able to do hardware asset management. And I was going to share a little bit of a demo, but we only got like 6 or 7 minutes left, so maybe that's enough time for another time.
Well, you can't just tease it like that. I mean, is there any? Yeah, why don't you show what you can?
All right. So one of the things that if you look at the CIS, the Center for Internet Security, and you look at the very first control in that list, it's asset management. Nobody does this. We all have our assets listed in our stuff everywhere, but nobody actually deals with them on a regular basis. And if you dig into the actual control, it says we're supposed to review enterprise assets weekly. How many of you review your hardware list of your clients weekly? I do. And I do that now inside our platform with Polygon. I plop in our Ninja One API keys or any of our PSA, RMM API keys, and I can suck down the assets from there, and I can generate my asset list, right, from the API, and then I can import this right into the platform. and have full change management. I can review them. I can look at them. Oops, Zach, get that out of the way. And I can be able to see what are new, what are not. And then I can push this to my client and say, I've reviewed your documents. Ooh, look at that. Summary of changes. Yay. Oh, wait a minute. Because we want change management, this is the initial draft. Next week, it'll be updated. The following week, updated, right? But I can push this to my clients. And now my clients can go ahead and sign off that this is their hardware list. And we do that through your RMM's tools. We can do that with software change management. We can even do that with human asset management, right? And what that does is allows you to automate the process of, hey, here's your hardware list. Here's your humans. Can you make sure that this is right? And you get the client to say yes or no and make your adjustments and have that full change management along the way.
And so, Tim, going back to just the importance of this and the value of it, I mean, obviously from a security perspective, having an updated, actually like a view of truth, right, of what actually is on your network, a foundation of everything, right? But then, as you point out, we're becoming the trend now through cyber insurance and through government regulations and everything, becoming more and more having compliance things pushed down, right? But can you maybe talk a little bit more about kind of the tying what you just showed back to some of the things you were talking about at the beginning in terms of why are we talking about all this right now? What is the big priority here?
So compliance, left of boom, the preparation, right? We're already starting to see organizations like cyber insurance push down requirements to small businesses. If you follow anything in the Department of Defense space, you're already starting to see this whole CMMC stuff. There's a whole new section and a whole new draft document for HIPAA on the way. So compliance is, it's not coming, it's already here. June 9th, FTC safeguards. If you want to go read more about that, there's a bunch of articles on our website at compliancerisk.io on what the safeguards are. The whole point here is compliance is here. It's not going away. It's already here. And if you're not already starting to prepare yourself and do this work on yourself, your clients are not going to be prepared, and they're going to come to you and ask questions. They're going to come to you and fill out these security questionnaires, and you're not going to be able to do them appropriately because you haven't even gotten your own house in order yet.
Well put. And I mean, I think it goes back to that point that Dustin was bringing up too. You know, if you're able to, with your clients, or if you're an IT person, within your organization, with your leadership, if you're able to have these conversations, and you're doing that proactively, you're positioning yourself to be that trusted advisor, to be the voice of authority here, versus having to react and be caught off guard by things.
Sure. I see Peyton put in there about, can't we just generate a report on a Ninja One? You can absolutely generate a report of your hardware list. And then what? Email it to your client and hope that, number one, that email is encrypted, that you're not passing data over an unencrypted network. Number two, that they actually get it and take action on it. And number three, be able to govern that along the way. Polygon automates all of that for you. Right. So I absolutely don't have a tool like Polygon. Great. Find a way to be able to share that information and get it governed, get it processed, have your client acknowledge this is our stuff, and do that on a regular cadence.
Thank you so much. Tim, this is great. And I really appreciate you taking the time. I mean, like you said, you could be talking about this all day long. There's a lot to cover here. We'll definitely have to pick up threads of this and continue on in the future. But this was great. And I've dropped the link to compliancerisk.io in the site there, or in the chat, I'm sorry. But anything else that you would want to kind of note you want to leave on, or any other resources that people should check out?
So obviously we continue to put things every Friday on our website. We do, if you follow us on LinkedIn, we do weekly trainings and education sessions about this stuff every Friday at 3. If I could leave, yes, you can use internal IT, you can use Polygon. If I could leave you with one thing, maybe 2, start someplace and do something internally.
I mean, going back to that point, right? Just take a step, just do something. I love it.
Do something. And that simple step can be setting up a 15-minute once a week meeting with your staff and walk through some kind of L10 stand-up type meeting.
And then Daniel says, don't make ChatGPT do that for you.
I love it. Thanks, Daniel. That's awesome.
And then Cynthia was asking, the link to Polygon, and that link you just shared, is that's where they can go to learn about?
Yeah,
Polygon
that's a simple one pager. You can obviously get to it from our homepage, but that's a simple one pager for you to kind of take a peek.
Awesome.
Always free internal use, by the way.
There you go. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that. It's a huge point. Oh, here's another one. Jason's asking, are the courses on the website for free?
So the courses do come as part of the peer group. So I guess I didn't do this properly. People process policy. People is the peer group. You can get to that on the website. Sign up there. Process is compliance as a service. You can get to that on the website. And policy is Polygon. You can get to that all from the homepage. People, process, policy. And the courses, sure, if you're in the peer group, they're part of the peer group. And all that information is on our website. I don't want to keep plugging our stuff because I don't want to make this a sales pitch.
But no, I mean, people were asking, you were not out of bounds here at all. I'm glad that you clarified. Thank you so much. Yeah, you see something is saying plug away. You have permission. But Tim, this is great. We need to jump to the next session. We got Juan waiting for us, but I really appreciate your time. Fantastic session.
Awesome. Thank you so much.